afternoon to you at home and a good afternoon to Michael Bridge with me in the studio. But first, of course, to this remarkable story around Alexander Isak, who is once again dominating our agenda. Last night, he released a statement on Instagram accusing Newcastle of broken promises over his future, something the club deny. Liverpool, meanwhile, are still yet to make a second bid. Waiting to give us the Newcastle take on things is Keith Downey at the club's training ground. And Anton Tolui is at Liverpool's training ground for us. Welcome along, both of you. Keith, I'm going to come to you first. There are always two sides to every story, aren't they? So can you please tell us Isak's and Newcastle's?
Yeah, Olivia, there are two sides to every story, and I think we've kind of all been waiting for most of the summer to hear exactly both sides' stories. Now, while neither went into detail in their statements last night, Newcastle's reaction to Alexander Isak's statement within about 3 hours, I think, and the speed that it arrived showed just how angry, frustrated, disappointed I think they are at the situation that keeps dragging on and on. Now, Alexander Isak decided last night to take to social media and discuss his situation due to, I think, the fact that the transfer window is ticking on what we're 12 days away now from transfer deadline day, and he's no nearer to a move away from the club. We've been telling you now for a number of weeks that Alexander Isak had told Newcastle he wanted to explore a move away from the football club, but as a result that has yet to materialise. And I think the crucial part of his post on social media last night was when he said, "When promises are broken and trust is lost, the relationship cannot continue. That's where things are for me right now, and why change is in the best interests of everyone and not just myself." So, as you said, Olivia, he is saying that promises have been broken, trust is lost. He feels he was promised, as I understand it, a new contract over a year ago. That has not materialised, and as a result he is on strike. Newcastle responded 3 hours later, didn't they? And the most important part in their statement was the conditions of a sale this summer have not transpired. We have been clear that the conditions of a sale this summer have not transpired. We have tried, and we do not foresee those conditions being met. So Newcastle saying, essentially, they have tried to facilitate a move for Alexander Isak away from the club this summer. Of course, they tried to sign Benjamin Sesko, pipped by Manchester United, tried to sign Hugo Ekitike, ironically pipped by Liverpool, where Alexander Isak would like to move to. But they've failed in both of those, and the way they are talking, my reading of their statement last night is that time is running out for them and they don't see themselves being able to bring in an adequate replacement, which means Alexander Isak will stay and they want to reintegrate him back into the squad when he is ready.
Oh, this saga continues. Well, Anton, then what about the Liverpool perspective? Are they going to make another offer for Isak?
No, that's what we're all waiting to find out, isn't it, Liv? Because it's been a little while since Liverpool made their £110 million add-on offer earlier in the window, which was rejected. But as you see here at Liverpool's training ground, they're all pretty relaxed. Remember, these are the Premier League champions. They're very happy with the squad they have right now. We know it's going to be an interesting final couple of weeks of the window for Liverpool, not just because of Alexander Isak, but also because of the potential interest in Mark Guéhi as well. So, look, but as far as Liverpool are concerned, look, if they close the window right now, they'd still be pretty happy with the business they've done. They've obviously brought in Hugo Ekitike, who started so well. They've Florian Wirtz, who's been so good. They've obviously brought in Milos Kerkez as well. So they've been active, very, very active in this window, and they've still got players that, for example, were honoured at the PFA Player Awards last night. For example, Mo Salah and Alexis McAllister and players like that. So Liverpool are very happy with the squad they have right now. But obviously, they're in a position where they can just sit back and wait and see what's happening with the Alexander Isak situation from a club and player perspective, but also from a valuation perspective as well, I suppose, because does this drama affect how much Newcastle potentially want for him? Well, that's something they'll find out over the next few days. But Liverpool are happy with the squad they have. Yes, they'd like, I'm sure, one more forward to come in between now and the end of the window. But if they don't get it, they're still going to be pretty happy with their business.
Right, Keith, how much will it take for Newcastle to say, you know what, that's enough? Let's end this saga now, or do you think him and reintegrate him?
No, Michael, look, they've tried, and I think that's what I was alluding to there, and what they were kind of, alluding to in their statement, that they've tried to facilitate a move for him this summer. Look, they weren't trying to sign Benjamin Sesko to play alongside Alexander Isak. They weren't trying to sign Hugo Ekitike to play alongside Isak. These were replacements, so they have tried, and I think they want Alexander Isak to realise that. And of course, we know they are really struggling to bring in not just one replacement, but two. They need two at the moment. Of course, Isak's not playing; he's essentially on strike. They lost Callum Wilson. They've been unable to even replace Callum Wilson. We know that Newcastle are trying to sign Johan Wissa from Brentford. That would be the replacement for Callum Wilson. Now, if Newcastle managed to get Wissa in the door and Liverpool made a huge bid for Alexander Isak in the remaining 12 days of the window, I think Newcastle have probably got a decision to make. If Newcastle fail to bring in Wissa, there is no way Alexander Isak is leaving, because you'd be essentially leaving the club without a central striker. If some magic happened in the window and they managed to find a top-level replacement from somewhere for Isak and they brought in Wissa, then my understanding is that Isak would be allowed to go if Liverpool up their bid. Remember, it was £110 million plus add-ons that they offered, 4 weeks ago now. I think it would need to be another £25 million on top of that for Newcastle to sit up and listen. But until they've got even one replacement in, and they've failed to do that so far this window, there will be no deal happening.
I mean, Anton, you've spoken about Liverpool's options and said, if the window closes now, they would probably be happy. I mean, Hugo Ekitike has made a huge impact already, but he is their only real recognised number 9, Anton. So could they really do with another striker?
Yeah, I'm sure they'd like another striker, but look, the fact of the matter is Hugo Ekitike started his Liverpool career in a ridiculously impressive fashion, hasn't he? Scoring within minutes of the Community Shield, and then obviously scoring on his Premier League debut as well. And the way he took those goals as well inspires, well, a lot of optimism among Liverpool fans. Ekitike is one of the players training behind me here at Liverpool's training ground today. But obviously, look, we know that Liverpool obviously have been clearing the decks, especially up front, where they try to gaining some of the revenue after their big summer spending. We know that Luis Diaz has left. We know Darwin Núñez has left. We know Benjamin Doak has left as well. So they've lost 3 strikers in the last 3 forwards in the last few weeks as well. But it's not the fact that Liverpool want another striker. It's the fact that they want one of the best strikers in the Premier League. That's why we're all talking about Alexander Isak, and that's why I'm saying that they'll be happy if they don't necessarily feel they can meet necessarily the valuation that Newcastle want, or the player situation doesn't get resolved. Then if Liverpool don't get him, they're not going to be overly disappointed, because they're really happy with the business they've done and the business they may continue to do. But yes, obviously they want a striker. They don't want a striker, they want the striker, and that is Alexander Isak. But yeah, Liverpool very happy with the squad they have, very happy with the summer additions they've made, and very happy with where they are in the Premier League right now.
Anton, thank you. Now, Keith, back to you. Now, Newcastle fans aren't happy. It's going to take a lot to win everybody back over, isn't it? If he stays, I know what those fans are like. You know him more than anyone.
Yeah, I said earlier on another show, Michael, if I had £1 for every time I'd been asked this summer what's happening with Alexander Isak, I think I'd be able to pay for him myself. I'd be able to buy him for Liverpool myself. That is all everyone wants to talk about on Tyneside. They want to know what's happening to Alexander Isak. Look, I think the fans are upset, they're angry, they're really disappointed in his actions. This is a guy who's got 3 years left on his contract, and by the way, on a very, very lucrative contract as well. Look, he feels he's due more than that. He feels he's worth more than that, and I get that, but I think the way the fans see it is there's a way to go about it. You don't go on strike, you don't not train with your teammates, you don't make yourself unavailable to play in the opener against Aston Villa. Then I think it'll probably be the same for this match on Monday night against Liverpool as well. I don't think there's any chance he could play in that game given all the speculation surrounding him. So I think for them, the way he's gone about it is really upset them. I think it's probably dividing the fan base. I think some of them have turned and they just want rid of him. But I think there's other fans who are really pleased with the club statement last night by kind of saying, look, we're in control of this here. This isn't the players' decision. This is the club's decision, and no one person is bigger than the club. So I think a lot of them, from the comments, social media, and the fans that I speak to and I've spoken to this morning, I think they're quite happy with what the club have done last night, and they don't want him to be allowed to leave as easily as that. So there is a bit of a divide. We will see what happens as the days tick on towards the deadline. I wouldn't say this is the end of it now. I don't think this means he's 100% staying, because if Liverpool come back in with a huge offer and Newcastle manage to get in at least one other striker, it may leave them with a decision to make. But as Newcastle said in their statement last night, they don't foresee that happening. So they don't see both of those scenarios taking place. But as we know in the transfer window, a lot can change. What hasn't changed is the fact that Alexander Isak, about 100 yards away from me, is not part of that Newcastle United training session this morning that I just watched a little bit of. So that's been the case for weeks now. He'll train on his own this afternoon, away from the group, as he continues to agitate for a move away from the club. And it felt very much like that comment from last night on his social media felt like a last desperate try, because he knows the days are ticking down. The closer it gets to that deadline, the more difficult it's going to be for Alexander Isak to leave. What will be really interesting will be, once the window closes, how long until we see Alexander Isak back in a black and white shirt again. It's going to be fascinating.
And Keith, just finally, obviously, what does all this mean for Eddie Howe? We know how good he is, man management, that sort of style of management. But I mean, he's had so much to deal with this summer already, and this is just now another thing he's going to have to deal with as well. Yeah,
look, I feel for Eddie Howe in all of this, absolutely. He's been caught in the middle of it all, and look, he's a master politician, isn't he? He's represented the club terrifically well. The way he's kind of discussed the situation without criticising anyone. He knows he's the figurehead of the club. And he knows that he's kind of been sort of stuck in the middle of it. What he doesn't want to do is he doesn't want to criticise the player too much either, because he knows there is a real chance that Alexander Isak could be back in his team at his disposal, and he'll be picking him, because look, he's arguably the best striker in the country, one of the best strikers in Europe. So he's kind of been... It's difficult for him. He's in a bit of a political quagmire at the moment, doesn't really know what to say, and he's having to field questions for us all the time. But what I will say is, I was in at the Newcastle training centre just next door earlier on this morning watching the training session. The rest of the players were all there. The mood was good, it was jovial, it was bright. I think they're all looking forward to the match on Monday night against Liverpool live on Sky. And I think, although it looks like chaos from the outside looking in, the message I'm getting from the club, and certainly from what I saw at training this morning, is things are very calm, because they know they've got the power in this situation. Isak has 3 years left on his contract. And really, it's up to them what happens next. So, look, let's wait and see. We've got 12 days of the window to go. I thought maybe that might be an end of it last night, but no, I think this saga is going to drag on right till the end. And then hopefully for Newcastle and their fans, they can get some clarity and they can take it from there. But look, it's been a really horrible situation. It's got toxic at times, but behind the scenes, the message is we're calm. We've got a good point on the board away at Aston Villa at the start of the season, Liverpool next, and you would imagine the Newcastle team and their fans more than anything will be right up for that one on Monday evening.
Yeah, cannot wait for that Monday night football, Newcastle against Liverpool. Thank you very much, Keith, at Newcastle's training ground, and Anton at Liverpool's training ground. Right, it's Wednesday, which means we'll have Julien Laurent joining us. He'll be giving us his thoughts on Alexander Isak, Gianluigi Donnarumma, plus a bit of argy-bargy that's led to two players being transfer listed at Marseille.